Will you remain standing as you are able for our scripture lesson, which this morning comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verses 29 through 39. After leaving the synagogue, Jesus, James, and John went home with Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed, sick with a fever, and they told Jesus about her at once. He went to her, took her by the hand, and raised her up. The fever left her, and she served them. That evening at sunset, people brought to Jesus those who were sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered near the door. He healed many who were sick with all kinds of diseases, and he threw out many demons. But he didn't let the demons speak, because they recognized him. Early in the morning, well before sunrise, Jesus rose and went to a deserted place where he could be alone in prayer. Simon and those with him tracked him down. When they found him, they told him, "Everyone is looking for you." He replied, "Let's head in the other direction to the nearby villages so that I can preach there too. That's why I've come." Right. He traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and throwing out demons. Right. This is the word of God for the people of God. I have made a lot of visits to the hospital in the past several weeks. It seems that there have been a lot of folks who are members of our congregation who have been hospitalized, and so I've made a lot of hospital visits. You know, sometimes we go weeks upon weeks at a time, and there'll be no visits at the hospital. But over the past several weeks, I've made a number of visits, and in many of those situations, one of the things that I've done is I have grasped the hand of those who were in the hospital or the hand of a loved one, and as we have shared a prayer together, as we have talked with each other, and I've done that because the touch of a hand is a reminder that care is there. And I represent you as I hold people's hands when they're in the hospital. Touch is often an act of caring. And as we touch each other's hands, as we hug each other, as we put a hand on the shoulder, these are often moments when we are expressing our care and compassion and concern for one another. I've seen you do that on Sunday morning many times. A hug, a handshake, a touch, a pat on the back. Each of those touches demonstrate your care and your compassion for one another. It is too bad that there are some in the world who have touched inappropriately. And in touching inappropriately, they have caused the world to be concerned about touch. And those who have touched inappropriately have taken away from others the joy and the pleasure shared with a sincere and a compassionate touch. How grateful I am for so many of you who know the power of a compassionate touch. Sometimes that touch is just the touch of a hand on the top of another hand, saying to another, "I care." Yeah. How often have I seen in the context of the death where two persons come and embrace? Sometimes it's the embrace of two that have not seen each other for a long while. But oftentimes it is also the embrace of two who share a similar experience. And in that embrace, they are saying, one is saying to the other, "I really do understand at some deep level what this is like for you." As I mentioned, I've made a number of hospital visits over the past several weeks, and some of those hospital visits have been to Bob Allen. Many of you know Bob. You know Bob and Ruth, and Bob served as the music director here at the church for over 30 years, and Bob and Ruth are loved by many of you. Bob's scheduled to get out of the hospital this afternoon. That's great news. Bob entered the hospital a week ago on Thursday morning, and early on Thursday morning, and when I say early on Thursday morning, I mean very early. Bob and Ruth had to be at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'd had to be at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning, that means means I wake up at 3:30 or 4 or something like that. Miss Wilma, you know about getting up early to be at the hospital. Anyway, Bob was at the hospital because Bob was scheduled for coronary bypass surgery and the replacement of a heart valve. And so he got there at 5:30 in the morning, but as hospitals go, the surgery didn't start till about 10:30, and 7 hours later, Bob had a newly repaired heart, and Bob did amazingly well. But to me, it is what happened during the surgery that demonstrates the miracle of another kind of touch. During the heart surgery, the surgeon's hands opened Bob's chest. And the surgeon's hands took Bob's heart in his and repaired that heart. And it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing that someone's hands can take a heart that needs repair and fix it and make it better. Those hands that repaired Bob's heart are the same hands that have held the hand of a loved one. Those hands that repaired Bob's heart are the same hands that were held by a mother or a father when those hands were the hands of a child. Those hands are the same hands that sometimes have done the mundane things of life, like take out the garbage, like drive a car, like clap when there's something to clap about during an inspirational performance. But the touch of human hands on a human heart, the ability to repair that heart, to me, is just miraculous. But what I want to say to you this morning is that all of us, every single one of us, have hands that could also be used to bring healing and comfort in many ways. Our reading today is a reading about Jesus' touch. Jesus Christ was known by his touch. In our story, Jesus goes to Simon's mother-in-law. She was sick. She was in bed. She had a fever. And Jesus reaches out his hand and helps her up. And the fever left her. Jesus' touch brought healing to her. And after that, literally hundreds of people came to Jesus to be touched, to be prayed over, to experience healing in Jesus' presence. Literally hundreds of people were brought to Jesus. After that, Jesus then traveled the countryside to share in that opportunity to preach and teach and heal along the way. And this story is just one of many stories about the miracle of Jesus' touch with the people that he met along the way. Next week, we're going to read another story, a story about a man whose hand was withered. If you want to read ahead, it's right after the story that we read today. Jesus was known by his touch. And as followers of Jesus Christ, we too are known by our touch. And Christ calls us to be a part of his healing ministry. Here at Servants of Christ, you often hear me say things about how we are called to be the hands and the feet of Jesus Christ.
We are, yeah.
And what I want to say to you this morning is that is not just some catchy phrase.
No.
I really believe that we are truly called to be like Jesus, to use our hands and our feet and our voices to be Christ to the world today. And let me say more, we are known by our touch. As followers of Jesus Christ, we are known by our touch, and as followers of Jesus Christ, we are a part of God's family, and as followers of Jesus Christ, we are invited to use our hands and our feet and our touch to bring healing and wholeness to the people around us. This morning, as an example, let me share with you some of the ways that hands have been used just today. This morning in the activity center, there were hands that were preparing breakfast. Members of this church who were preparing breakfast for others. I used my hands this morning to pick up trash around the building. That's something I do every Sunday morning. It's also a time of meditation for me. And there are some Linda and Tom did that for you this morning. There are other hands that help people get up. We use our hands in so many ways. Some use their hands to open the door for someone else. Yesterday, let me tell you about yesterday. There were 100 hands, 50 different people who gathered down at Mission Milby. We were having the training for volunteers who are willing to serve as volunteers in the new Justice for Our Neighbors immigration ministry. And 50 people were there to share, to learn how they can use their hands and their hearts and share the healing power of touch through Jesus Christ. We as followers of Jesus Christ are known for so many different ways that we use our hands to help others. And Jesus Christ calls us to use our hands in our hearts to promote healing in the world around us. And so I pray that we will be a church that is known for healing others and bringing wholeness to the community around us. And let me tell you, we've been trying to do that in so many different ways over the past several years, and we've done it in so many different ways. And we're still trying to figure some of that out, but let me tell you, my friends, even though we struggle with finances and things like that from time to time, we have our hands. We have our hands. The greatest strength that we have as a congregation is our hands and our ability to use our hands to bring about God's kingdom in this world and in this place. And those hands have been used and are called by Jesus Christ to do their magic where they've been placed. Wherever you have been placed, your hands are called to be the hands of healing. To do the things that God is calling you to do. To bring healing to the community around you. To bring healing to the people around you. God is calling you to use your hands. And you know, it may take us a while to get it right. You know, sometimes we try and we try and we try. We work on something, and it never seems we never seem to get it right. But there's a guy named Lovett Wings who's a church consultant who says that churches need to be willing to try and try again and to cultivate an attitude of innovation and an atmosphere where we use our hands differently, and we need to fear less. We need to do away with the fear of failure and be willing to use our hands in so many different ways to do new things and to share new ideas and to try to heal the world around us in different ways. Some of you may be wondering why there's a can of WD-40 up here on the chancel. Harvey Bionis has already asked me about that. There's Harvey. I knew you were somewhere. Harvey already asked me about it. He said, we need some WD-40 on one of the doors. But that's not the reason I have it up here. I have it up here because I want to say it kind of reminds me of what we as a church are called to be about. You know, sometimes it seems like we have to do something over and over and over and over. Well, there's a reason for that. Sometimes we have to get it. It takes a long time to get it right. Let me tell you the story of WD-40. WD stands for water displacement. Water displacement. Somebody at the 9:30 service said all you need to fix almost anything is a roll of duct tape and a can of WD-40 and you'd be set. But water displacement. It seems that there was a team of chemists at a rocket chemical company in San Diego, California in 1953. And they were trying to create something that they could use to prevent corrosion. And they needed to displace the water that was around various things. And so they tried and they tried and they tried and they tried. And the 40 on the WD-40 stands for the 40 different times, different formulas that they had to try in order to get it right. WD-40, 40 different times to try to get it right. I'll bet that many of you have used WD-40 for something in your house. Now, think about our church. You know, sometimes we've done all kinds of things to try to get it right. Let me give you an example. I've been here since 2007, something like that, June of 2007, and I have already lost count of the number of different worship schedules and styles we have had here at the church. We've tried all kinds of things, and we tried it because we're trying to get it right, and we're getting ready to do it again. We're starting on February 22nd. We're starting a new worship schedule. 8 o'clock breakfast, 9 o'clock worship in the activity center, 10 o'clock Sunday school, and 11 o'clock worship. And you know what? I think we may be on to something. We may be about to get it right. We may be about to get it right. And because one of the things that I've discovered is that there are people who want to use their hands in this new schedule to start some new Sunday school classes. I didn't even ask people to do that. People volunteered. We have several new Sunday school classes that are being talked about and are going to be started with this new worship schedule.
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so maybe we're about to get it right this time. A class for children, a new class for children, a new class for adults. Maybe there's another adult class that's getting ready to happen as well. I don't know. But think of the challenges that God has put before us. And think of how we might need to try 40 different things in order to address the challenges that God has before us. 40 different ways to try to bring healing and wholeness to our world, but we have to use our hands to do so. We have to be willing to share the gifts that God has given us to bring healing and wholeness to the world around us. As I mentioned yesterday, we had this wonderful training for the Justice for Our Neighbors ministry. 50 people, 10 from our church were there. I think about 10, something like that. I didn't count exactly, but around 7 to 10, something like that, were there. 50 people, people from churches all across the Houston area were there to work together on this new Justice for Our Neighbors ministry.
Good for our city.
And one of the things I want to share with you is that I got an email this week from a guy named Stan Merrick. Stan is a friend of mine. Stan owns a specialty subcontractor based here in Houston, and it's called the Merrick family of companies. And Stan sent me an email to say, you know, I really like what you're doing, because what you're doing is addressing a need within our community. Stan is a follower of Jesus Christ. He's a very active member of the Roman Catholic Church that he attends. And Stan sent me this note. He said their estimates are that over 50% of the construction workers in Texas are undocumented. And he was talking about the President's executive order, which we are going to help people with. He said the President's executive order, though controversial, hopefully will allow thousands of these workers to leave the underground economy and to be a part of someone's payroll. Wages will go up, training can be provided, insurance can be made available for folks hurt on the job, and instead of working 60 hours without overtime, folks will be able to spend more time with their families. He said when you drive around this weekend, notice how many construction workers are on the job. And then he finished his note. He said, thank you, Will, for what you are doing with the new Justice for Our Neighbors immigration ministry. It's going to help people come out of the shadows and begin to be a part of American society in a way that they've not been able to be before. And we as a church, we are using our hands to help make that possible. This is one of many ways that we are using our hands to make the world a better place. We are touching lives. We are bringing healing to our community. Martin Luther King said everybody can be great because anybody can serve. He said you don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. A soul generated by love. So let's review. Jesus reached out his hand. Reached out his hand to Simon's mother-in-law and touched her and helped her up. And she was healed. And then Jesus went around the countryside healing all kinds of folks. And Jesus calls us, as followers of Jesus Christ, we too are called to be healers. We are people who are called to reach out and touch and to use our hands to bring healing and wholeness to the world us. The challenge for us is just to look throughout our church and our community for the people and the places that need healing. To not turn a blind eye, but to be willing to reach out our hands to offer healing and wholeness to the world around us. So as you move through the week ahead, I'd like to invite you to open your eyes and to open your ears and think about how God might be calling you, how God might be calling us as servants of Christ to use our hands to bring healing and wholeness to the world around us. Make a list of those things. And if you're really brave, I invite you to share with me or Linda or Liana when she returns. We'd like to hear your ideas. How might God be calling us as a church to share our hands and to bring healing and wholeness to the world around us? Because as we do that, God will use us and use our hands to make the world a better place. Our closing hymn this morning